are the Renaissance couple that I would like to role model myself after. Helen's involvement with Pima Council on Aging, which has gone on for many years, being on the foundation board and the board of directors, speaks well for the organization and for Helen.
When I take a look at John Schaefer and Helen Schaefer, I see Tucson, and I see the way in which a community is formed and framed, and the way in which leaders can help and move within that community.
Helen and John have been involved in the Poetry Center, the creative photography, science, history, women. That's why I say they're a Renaissance couple. They have helped this community and are true Tucson patriots.
They care about important issues, and they care about people, and they like to improve the lives of others.
It's people like John and Helen Schaefer that I think that keep the arts alive in Tucson. You know, that their commitment and their passion for the arts, their desire to make sure that everyone in our community has an opportunity to participate in music and dance and theater and poetry. You know, it's very inspiring.
I grew up in New York City. My parents were both immigrants and came to New York in the late 1920s. Neither one of them had any formal education to speak of, so making a living was their primary concern, and their children, my sister and myself. They recognized early on that education was the way to get ahead in America, that one survived by brains primarily rather than brawn, and urged me to get an education. I was born in 1934 and went to the public schools in the city. Important influences, I think, were Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts growing up, and church was also an important factor in my life.
In the suburbs of Chicago, and Glencoe and Highland Park. Went to elementary school there and high school, and then I went to the University of Michigan to go to college. And then to Illinois for grad school. That was where we met. My sister, we're fraternal twins, so we're very unlike each other. And I was always interested in science. She was more interested in the arts and literature and so on, although I was interested in those too, but I always enjoyed science. And my father gave us a telescope, a microscope when we were little. And then he gave us a chemistry set, which I was just fascinated with.
She's kind of the gentle version of John Schaefer. She has the same dimensionality, and she has the same credentials from the University of Illinois that John has, and yet she's a woman of great interest and a humanistic character. I'm very proud of the fact that the esteemed Poetry Center at the University of Arizona is in a building named after Helen Schaefer.
Helen is one of the hardest trench workers I know. She's on the quiet side, so sometimes people don't know how dynamic and smart she is. Helen's sense of leadership, whether it be for the YWCA, the Poetry Center, WOSAC, Women's Studies, is always fascinating and worth watching.
Helen stepped forward in the late 90s when we realized we absolutely had to have a permanent home for this collection of books. We had been in little houses around campus for decades, our books were in storage, and Helen saw the need for us to find a community of people who would come together and help us raise the money to build this building, which we now enjoy. Also, all the books have come out of storage. We're able to put on so many programs for the entire community, not just for the university. And it was really Helen's determination that this would happen, that we're here today in this building.
She was president of the PCOA board. She moved on to become president and a member of the Pima Council on Aging Foundation, helping us to try to raise money to support older adults and their caregivers.
The Meals on Wheels is really good because not only do they get the meals, but somebody's sort of checking on them, and they get some conversation, which they might not otherwise.
I would say the best way to describe John, and through just my impressions, is quiet leadership.
The university is something I care dearly about, and I love living in this community. was an exciting, vibrant community, and I think it still is today. My next job was at Research Corporation, where I had a chance to get back into science and do the things that I'd studied to do for a long, long time. The inventions that it's brought to the public, from cisplat, which is the most successful anti-cancer drug ever invented, to the PSA test, to computer technologies. All of those are things that repaying society for the investments that they've made in supporting science and technologies. We played a major role in the survival and the prospering of the Large Binocular Telescope, which is now the most powerful telescope in the world.
He is so modest about his contribution in co-founding the Center for Creative Photography. But the contribution to the field of photography by creating an institution like the Center, where there can be an ongoing discussion about what's happening in the field of photography, where the archives of great photographers can be housed and made available for research and study, it's really incalculable. He is a gifted photographer, and I think he's very modest about his contributions there, too.
His art is stunning. It is of the desert, what he's doing now. He's doing a lot of cacti, and he's doing succulents and other Sanavir, Debach. The photography is terrific. He's doing woodworking, he's a writer.
You know, the old saying, if aging's not your concern, it soon will be, and by golly, that's true. We do need a strong commitment to making the end-of-life experiences and the golden age of life as pleasant and as fully functional for people as possible. The old saying, the guy who dies with the most toys wins, I think that's wrong. It's getting rid of all the toys in a proper kind of way before you pass on is the key to a healthy and successful life.